Hey, I just got back from lunch. Did you finish that report yet?
Well, not exactly. Still working on it. I'm not finished just yet. I got a little sidetracked, but I will get them to you first thing this afternoon.
It is first thing this afternoon.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I am working on
But
it. I'll have.
what do you mean that the report isn't finished yet?
I'm still in the process of working on it. I've just been a little distracted.
Distracted. Our meeting starts in an hour.
I can have it.
No. What were you doing? Were you listening to another hunting podcast again? I swear, I give the staff in this office the freedom to do whatever they want to do as long as they meet a deadline. That is the first bullet underneath your job description. Pays attention to detail and deadlines. And deadlines. Like Dude, are you even listening to me right now?
Welcome to episode 79 of the Whitetail Distraction Podcast. My name's Austin, and joining me via the interwebs, Charles Hedlund. How you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic, man.
That's what I like to hear, buddy.
Fan-freaking-tastic. We're breaking in on some really nice weather. Turkey season's around the corner. Fishing's coming up soon. Huh?
Yeah, buddy. I'm very excited about that.
Heck yeah. And the news is out, boys and girls. We forgot to tell everybody, Yakking for Bass is officially on.
Where's it posted? Where did he post it yet? I haven't seen it. I knew it's on, but I haven't seen it yet.
I might be jumping the gun on the post, but as far as the inside information that I have is there will be a Yakking for Bass tournament this year from May 15th to June 15th. As far as some of the prizes and stuff, it's probably not going to be as extensive because we got a really late jump on it this year. Not sure what's going to happen. Walter Lee of the Chasing Tails podcast is expecting his first baby somewhere around, I want to say mid-May, maybe, or late May.
Yeah, somewhere in May.
Yeah, it's somewhere towards the tail end of May, sorry. But I don't know, man. I hope that it happens, and I think it will. As far as I understand, it's going down. It's probably going to be the same price as usual. It's a bass tournament. We're going to be fishing from kayaks, and I guess no better time to announce our other news that we have, huh?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, this is one that I'm really excited about too. You know, we were talking to Parker McDonald. You know, he's the kayak hunter, man. You know, we fish against him in the Yakking for Bass tournament. We've done that for a few years now. He's just a great freaking dude. And, you know, Walter Lee actually uses one also. And, you know, I think, I might be wrong, but I think Chase actually has one also. So we might have like the five-fecta, not the trifecta, but the five-fecta now.
Yeah, and don't forget, I believe the Rut River boys are also rocking new canoes, those F12s.
Oh my God, man. Okay, so we're like the 9-fecta.
Depending on how many of those.
Yeah, man.
They got 9 alone.
Old Catfish is like the godfather of it. If he finds one, he gets his boys in them, I guess.
Yes, that's right. He is. So, we have officially partnered with New Canoe.
Yeah, man.
Yep. And that's going to be a new partner to the show. And you and I will both be rocking a new canoe. I placed my order. I got the confirmation today for the new Unlimited.
Sweet.
Which is brand new. It just come out. There's a huge backlog on them, of course. But it is like first hunting, fishing style kayak that they're coming out with. They're trying to dip their toes in the hunting realm. And here we are to take full advantage of that.
I dig it, man. I dig it. I don't know if I'm going quite that exclusive with the Unlimited or not, but I'm definitely going to get one.
I mean, I get it. It's just like, for me, the price difference between, the Frontier 12 and the Unlimited, it almost didn't make sense to go with the F12 over the Unlimited for me. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a really good boat. It's going to a huge upgrade for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely.
Coming from a 9.5 foot to a 12.5 foot kayak at that. It's, twice the weight, twice the stability. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to get my butt in one.
Yeah, dude. It's going to be killer, man. I'm very excited myself. Very excited. Yeah.
So everybody out there, go check out New Canoe. Go to their website, look at their new kayaks. They have a whole line of kayaks. They have every option you can possibly imagine. If you want to pedal, if you want to actually use the paddle, they have
powered kayaks also. They got the Torquedo, one of the.
Yeah. Yep. You can put a little engine back there too. A little Honda. I think they sell right from their site as well.
I think they do. Yeah. They have so many options, man. I mean, go check them out. Freaking phenomenal. New Canoe.
That's right. I'm excited.
I am too, buddy. I am
too.
So,
speaking of fishing and hunting from a kayak.
Oh, buddy.
That goes hand in hand with our guest tonight.
It does, man. It does. We have Catman. Jonathan Boehme. Catman Outdoors.
The old Catman. Man, Catman is what an awesome dude, for one. Everybody you talk to, when you talk about Catman, they always say that is just one good guy.
Yeah, and totally.
He's one heck of a genuine dude. How funny was he? We were zooming with him, and he's just got a whole rack behind him of sheds.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good one. Just modest as all hell. He pulls out, probably a 50-inch side. Just, oh yeah, that was a pretty good one I found the other day. And these are just this year's. And then
pulls out a big handful of freaking turkey beards.
Yeah. These are some of the ones that I got. And, if you haven't seen his YouTube channel as well, man, you got to head over there because he has so many great videos. We mentioned it in the episode, like how many videos he goes into with just kind of the little how-tos or the little just genuine Catman things that he does.
Totally, man. He's got hunting content, fishing content, how-to for cooking, if you want to go through some of those, how to make wing bone calls, how to paint your shotgun. Like, the dude's just an all-around outdoorsman. His videos are freaking awesome.
Yeah. He was out shooting, like, blackbirds or whatever the hell those things are.
European starlings.
I call them starlings. Okay, that's what they are called.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I call them starlings. I don't know the official name. But, yeah, he's out there just plinking them. Like, who does that? Who drops a video like that? That is awesome, man.
I love it.
It's so Catman.
It is, man. It is.
Well, no further ado. Let's go ahead and get the man on. What do you think?
I like it, buddy.
All right, guys, we are back with another episode. We have a very exciting guest for you. We are rolling with turkey content, and who better to keep the turkey content moving than Jonathan Boehme, which, if you don't know that name, it's because he goes by Catman. And that's the family-friendly name there. Catman it is. But what's going on, Catman? How are you today, buddy?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing well, man. No complaints here. It was really warm for a couple days. It got cold again. So if I had a complaint, I guess it's getting cold again. It was a little teaser that spring turkey was coming.
Spring, when it's like, oh, finally spring's around the corner. It's warm out, and then nope. The winter's not over yet.
Oh, yeah. I was out in my yard today, and a couple of the maple trees started getting some buds on them, and then the snow flurry started flying, and they're a little confused yet.
Yeah, all our maples have been blooming for weeks now, but nothing leaves out here until early April, most of the stuff. So, like, it feels like spring, but it doesn't quite look like spring yet. But it gets me fired up. I've been thinking turkeys nonstop here for the past couple weeks.
That's right. Yeah. For us, we're a little bit behind that. We may not even see a lot of green until, May for the most part, I would say. And that all really depends on how much rain we get in April. Yeah. And if it stays cold. I mean, last year in turkey season, our season opens up in May, typically like the first day of May or right around that area. I mean, it was snowing. We had... At one point, I remember turkey hunting, and we got like 2 inches of snow on the ground in the day. It was insane. And that was not the first day. That was like the second week. So middle of May, we got a snowstorm. You never know.
That doesn't happen here. We had a pretty good snow here a couple weeks ago. I just about shut everything down. I got stuck in my own driveway the first night, and then it snowed some more. So that was fun, but it got old pretty quick. And then finally it melted. It got warm again. It's been in the 50s and 60s this week, so it's been really nice.
Yeah.
But it's getting cold the next couple nights. I mean, it's typical. It's fluctuates. But I went out the other morning. No, it was yesterday morning. I went out to scout and listen to that video I just posted. I expected to hear some birds on the limb, which I didn't. And as soon as I dropped down in the creek bottom, I got them to sign. So I know they were somewhere around. It could have either been they just weren't gobbling yesterday, or they were down in a hollow where I literally couldn't hear them. But here in the next week or two before I head down to Alabama, I'm going to try to get out a couple times and listen just to hear them gobble. Really no other reason. I just want to hear them gobble.
Yeah. So before we jump into that, because you brought up a good topic I do want to touch on, why don't you go ahead and give a little intro of who you are, and maybe introduce your channel like you just mentioned. You have a video that you just recently posted tonight. If you want to go ahead and do that for us, that'd be great.
So short version here, I guess. I grew up in a family of 7. Well, 7 now, I guess. I'm the firstborn. Nobody in my family hunts.
Oh, man.
And I got into fishing when I was 11, I think. And so I got real big into fishing then, and it just kind of something sparked in my head where I went down to the creek and was like, I want to catch a fish. And we just kind of went from there. And the same thing happened with hunting late 2009 going into 2010. And that's actually when I started my channel. I learned about, that's when I found out deer shed their antlers. I went and found a couple sheds, and I started making a couple videos. And so it was just a hobby. Like, that's when I started my channel. I was just taking a camera everywhere, and if I got a video that I thought was interesting, I'd post it. And I mean, I guess that's still what I do. But I kind of learned as I went, from 2010-ish until, I'm still learning. So I learned a lot by, going online and doing research, and then getting on forums and stuff and meeting some people and getting a little experience there. But I pretty much had to start from scratch and kind of make videos along the way. And then my filming, like the videos themselves, got a little better over the years because I started taking it more seriously. And so that's how I got where I am now, pretty much. I've got a channel that's doing pretty well now, and I try to put the most interesting and educational content that I can possibly put on there. So I might not post a video every single week. During turkey season, during deer season, I will, but during the off season, I don't even post anything unless I think it's worth posting. So that's kind of how my deal goes.
Yeah, I like that about your channel. You kind of show a little bit of everything. You might show one of my favorite videos, your snack sticks, man.
Yeah.
You might show how to make snack sticks, or one of my other favorite videos that you have, your trout dip. Oh, unbelievable, man. So you go from cooking and hunting and fishing, many different things, flatheads and walleyes, and to squirrel hunting and turkey hunting and mushroom hunting. I mean, it's absolutely like the jack of all things hunting, man. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of the goal. And it's gotten to the point where I've gotten into so many different little things that interest me just in outdoors in general. I've considered making another channel just to have anything else that's not strictly hunting or fishing related, which I haven't even started that, but it's an idea I've been throwing around just to branch off a little bit.
Yeah. I've even seen, I know you're the go-to if you ever want to do like a turkey wing bone call or dipping your gun. I've seen you do those kind of episodes, and I think, did you dip it or spray paint it? I can't remember. Was it spray paint? Spray paint.
Spray paint and sponge, sea sponge to do that tree bark pattern.
I had that saved for the longest time. I want to do that to my shotgun. After watching your video, I'm like, man, that just looks too easy.
It is easy. It's a little bit tedious. The prep work, I hate painting stuff because of all the prep work and everything. Yeah. But once you get your gun 100% clean and stripped down to bare metal, put that primer on, let it dry 15 minutes, put that base coat on, then you can just grab that sea sponge and go all Bob Ross and just, put a little tree bark here and there and make it look however you want.
Bob Ross reference. I love it. Getting back into turkeys, you mentioned something there about getting out and listening to them gobble, even though it's early. I mean, I would imagine where you're at is the same here. They're still kind of to their winter roost. They're still in their winter flocks, but I've heard
they're still flocked up here. Yeah.
They are? Okay. I would figure so.
They'll start gobbling and strutting. Like I saw some the other day driving by a cow pasture. I saw a whole flock of hens and then a whole flock of jakes and gobblers, and they were all fanned out. So
really,
if you want to go out and listen, they're still flocked up. But if you get into a flock on a good morning, they'll be just gobbling like crazy. Some of the best gobbling you'll hear all year.
Yeah, I've also heard you mention, before that even though this is their winter range or their winter roost, that there's a good chance you still might find turkey in that area, potentially even a gobbler in that area because it's an area they like come the springtime.
Yeah, that's what I've seen just from my personal experience.
Yeah, which is definitely something that intrigues me because I've seen them all over my camera recently. Like as soon as the ice and snow thawed, I've had like the same two toms passing by my cell camera every single day since. It's just like, okay, now I kind of have that spot in my mind,
Yeah.
I've also, I guess the other thing too, when I was rifle hunting, I found a new roost spot where I've always assumed they would roost. And I hunted in the spring, didn't have any luck, but I was coming through in rifle season in the dead of winter. And sure enough, there was like 5 or 6 of them roosted. It's like a big bowl, basically, off the hillside that falls way down in. And then there's some local houses down at the bottom in like a fieldy, grassy area. And I've always figured they would roost off that bowl. It would just pitch off the high point into those trees as they go down the hill. And they were there in the winter. But, I mean, I don't know. Is that something you would think then would be worthy just because it's something that looks right? It feels right as a roosting spot. Is that something I should put some time into in the spring and kind of maybe go to the bottom of that hill and listen for them?
Yeah, go wherever you can get in and out and just listen for them.
Yeah.
On a good morning. Now, they don't gobble good every single morning, but if you think it's worth checking out, at least listen for them on the roost. See if may only be 1 or 2 birds in there, but all you need is one hot gobbler. A lot of times, on the ridge country I hunt with all the little points and stuff, you have satellite birds, and they'll just have this little point or ridge to themselves, and they just kind of hang around there all day because they've had their tail whooped and they've got their little area where they're safe, where they're not going to get beat up by a dominant bird, but they can still stand up on high ground or even down in the bottom, say, and they can try to gobble up a hen. So you'll find, even if the bulk of the birds aren't in there, you may have a satellite gobbler in there. It's one of those things you just kind of got to go in during season and see if there's something there.
Okay. That's definitely interesting. And I guess related to the same property as well. Do you find turkey roosting spots kind of like buck bedding spots? Do you think a good roosting area so for example, I chased the same bird that roosted off the exact same ridge on the exact same point every single day or every single evening. He roosted the same spot last year. Never ended up killing the bird. Funny enough, had plenty of opportunity, but do you think that bird or another bird will still roost in that same area if it's a good roosting spot?
A lot of times, yeah, if there's something that keeps them coming back, there's something they like about it. And I think even if you kill that bird out, there's a chance another gobbler's going to come in and take its place.
Okay.
So there's nothing set in stone with turkeys or with anything for that matter. Yeah. So you're just kind of saying in general, yeah, if there's always a bird on that point, or you always seem to see one on that point, then there's something the birds like about it. And if he gets killed off or something, there might be another one there at some point to take its place, is what I've noticed. And they do have, preferred roosting areas. The winter flocks have their roosting spots, and then going into early season, you'll still have some using the same spots, and then they'll spread out and pick different areas like you were saying, that one point where you have a satellite bird that just stays there. So I don't know how your all's buck bedding works. I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm an expert in, buck bedding in particular. I generally look more for just where the deer are, like the young bucks, old bucks, does, whatever. But I guess we're talking about the hill terrain, how bucks will favor a certain spot on a hill or a point or a bench or whatever.
Sure.
I guess you could say it is somewhat comparable to turkeys.
Yeah, the way you described it, I would say it is absolutely comparable. I've heard
Not that they use the same exact spots as deer, but that they have tendencies to certain spots, like deer have tendencies to certain spots.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And even as you were saying, like sometimes, if that's the favorable area, like buck bedding is same as a good roost area. If that's a favorable spot, then even though you might kill one out of there in a given time, another one's going to potentially move into that area.
Yeah, exactly. I would say it's definitely comparable in that sense.
That makes a ton of sense to me. For sure. That's actually pretty helpful too.
So one of the things I wanted to get into, Charles came up with a couple questions going on into like historical data, essentially, as looking for turkeys. One of the things I'm kind of interested in, let's say you pick up a new property. Let's use Hill Country as an example. You pick up a new piece or you find a new piece of public. What's your step-by-step, process as far as breaking it down, doing your turkey scouting and utilizing it in the season?
Well, I guess if it's public, I'd say I'm looking at it on the map. I'm looking at Topo map. I'm looking at the satellite or whatever. See if it's hardwoods, pines, CRP fields, ag fields. Getting a general look over the place, and then like we were talking about that video I just did where I went and got into all that turkey sign. I saw two big creeks come together down in the bottom as low as you could go, and two big creeks came together, and then all the ridges around them had all these little fingers coming down, kind of like spokes coming down to a hub, which was where those creeks came together. It was kind of like a hub for turkeys, I guess. As soon as I got down in there, I got into fresh scratch. So I'm looking, at least in Hill Country, I'm looking for that kind of terrain, at least as a starting.
Yeah, that makes total sense, man. Are you using the same kind of tactic when you go out of state? I know we mentioned earlier that sometimes you hunt in Alabama, you hunt Tennessee currently, that's your home state, and sometimes you go to like mix it up, maybe a little Mississippi, Is your tactic kind of similar in doing an out-of-state hunt?
Yeah.
You doing a little bit of digital scouting and then just kind of boots on the ground?
Yeah. See, I went up to Minnesota last year in May, and it was similar country. You had some ag up on top, but it was just hardwood ridges and hollows. And so I just went at it the same way I would go at anywhere else with that kind of terrain, and ended up getting into a few birds out in the ag field, which was on top of a ridge. But yeah, looking for that mix of habitat. You throw a few fields in there, that's always a bonus, but turkeys don't have to have fields. But if there are fields in the area, I always check them out. But looking for where that main creek drainage is and where all the little points or fingers, whatever you want to call them, kind of come together into like a central location, which usually happens where two creeks come together.
Yeah.
It's a good starting point, and it doesn't matter if I'm Minnesota or in Alabama or whatever. If it's that same kind of habitat, then I'm going to approach it the same way.
I can attest to that too. I know that watching that video today, the type of terrain in that area you were in is almost identical to the area when I went down and hunted public land in Ohio. And sure enough, there were birds all in that spot. It was the same thing. There was like 2 or 3 ridges. They all came down into a little flat area that was relatively pretty open. And then, of course, there was even a little creek that ran through there. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous. It was almost identical to what you were showing. And sure enough, we got birds roosted there and almost got one killed there too. So I can definitely attest it works.
For sure. And it's a great starting place, especially early in the season. You may have satellite birds like gobblers that are off on their own, may be in the most random spot where you wouldn't expect one. So I wouldn't tell someone to only look for those hubs. I would say that's when you're checking out a new area to start in the most obvious spot that looks turkey, like those hubs where those ridges come together in the creek. And then start there. And if you find sign, mark it on the map or just remember it. And, if you don't get into anything gobbling or whatever, then just keep that spot in mind and start checking out other areas, check out other ridges or whatever. So I wouldn't be dead set on it, but it's definitely a good way to hone in on a new spot.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, bud. So another thing I wanted to kind of get into, I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit, but one of the things that I really like, and Charles mentioned it earlier, was your wing bone calls. I really like the idea of that kind of suction call, and, you've done countless videos with them. I mean, calling in birds, everything. What kind of got you into making those, and what kind of got you into them initially calling with them?
So I like making stuff. Always have, even if it turns out being useless. I like to build my own, rather than go out and buy it if it makes sense to do that. So I guess I had heard about it online, some Native American call made from turkey wings, and I thought it sounded cool. So I was like, well, I like making stuff, so I'm going to give this a shot, see if I can make it work. So I made a couple back in 2013, I think. And my first one was like a 2-piece. And then I made a 3-piece, and I liked the way it sounded a little bit better. But I just got to practicing on it and realized it sounded halfway decent, and then hunted with it a few times, and turkey started responding to it. So I just was like, this is cool. I'll keep hunting with it. I don't think it's like a better call than anything else. It has a particular sound to it that can get a stubborn bird to gobble if he's not answering anything else. But across the board, I don't think it's like any better of a call. In fact, you can't make half the vocalizations that you can on a slate call, but it's got a sweet sound to it that I like. I think it's pretty cool. So I've just stuck with it. Always carried one.
I've tried and tried. I actually had a buddy make one for me. Well, it was his friend that knew how to do it. So I gave him a couple wings and he made me a couple calls, and I tried on that thing and I got okay at it. I was definitely nowhere near as good as you were, but it has a very unique sound that I think would set you apart from everybody else out there using, your normal Primos or, store-bought Walmart calls.
Yeah. And the sound, the good sound of it is really from a distance, how it rings out in the woods. Like, if I, up close, it kind of doesn't sound as good, but then when you hear it from a distance, it's got like the voice of a hen almost. It's got a little bit of a ring to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So if we didn't really mention it, but I guess the common theme of our episode today is going to be, hill country. Catman lives and spends a lot of his time hunting in Tennessee, and a lot of the stuff is very relative to what we see. So, I mean, what is your preseason and in-season scouting kind of look like? Because I don't know if we've actually mentioned the 2 videos that you've recently dropped, like your scouting hill country video, your how to find turkeys in hill country videos. If you guys want to go over to Catman Outdoors and check those 2 out. But what does that change, or how does that change when you're in season? Do you do a lot of in-season scouting, or is it more hunting and then you scout as you hunt?
No, I scout as I hunt. I'm not gonna. I mean, if season's open and I'm not at work or doing some other obligation, I'm hunting. I've got a shotgun with me and a call. So I may scout as I hunt if it's an unfamiliar area, but before season I mainly scout, like what I have been doing, learning some new ground, just scouting to get familiar with an area and decide if it's worth going to during season. And then as we get closer to season, I'll go out just to listen, just because I like to hear them.
Sure.
But then going into season, I'll do a little bit of hunting the familiar spots where I know where the birds like to hang out anyways, and then I'll do a little bit of hunting the new spots, some of which I scouted earlier. So I don't think scouting's absolutely necessary, but it sure helps.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps that they make a really loud noise and kind of tell you where they're at, too, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is I've killed a bunch of birds that I, walked into a spot for the first time and struck one up. So
yeah,
you really don't. I mean, if you have a map, I guess you could say that's kind of scouting, like looking at the ridges on a map.
Sure.
But as far as physically scouting, I've killed a bunch of birds in places I'd never physically set foot in before.
Yeah. With us, it's a little tougher where, our first half of the season, the first 2 weeks, you're only allowed to hunt till noon. And then, you got to get the heck out of the woods pretty much. So I guess we have more opportunity to do some afternoon scouting, which I find myself, driving around a lot, just kind of checking fields and doing that kind of scouting in the afternoons. And then we're not allowed to hunt on Sundays. So sometimes every once in a while, if I want to find a new place, I might head out on a Sunday and give it a little walk. But I would agree with you. I mean, it's best to kind of get out there, listen, pay attention, and go as it goes.
See, you all got a whole different scenario there. You can't hunt Sundays or past noon, so you have time during season to scout when you can't hunt.
Right.
If I'm hunting my home state and I've got all day to hunt all season, I'm not going to waste time not hunting,
Sure.
But, I've hunted a spot in Alabama before that closed at 1 p.m. every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left my gun in the truck and started, like you said, driving around scouting. Ended up getting into some wild hogs not too far from the truck, ran back to the truck, left all my turkey calls so, it didn't look like I was turkey hunting, grabbed my shotgun and snuck up on these pigs, and they winded me right before I got a shot.
Oh, man.
That's the only time I could really say I've gone out and scouted during season because I couldn't hunt because it closed at 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That cutoff can be really tough, man. I can't tell you how many times we've been out and, you don't strike a bird until 11:50 or something like that, and you got 10 minutes to get it done, and it just does not end up happening. Then you got to leave a gobbling bird, and it's a heartbreaker, man.
Yeah, that'd be frustrating. One of my best birds I've ever killed, I stuck with him for 3 hours because he was henned up, and I killed him, I think it was about 12:30 or so. So imagine sitting with a bird for 2.5 hours, big old dominant bird, and then half an hour before he would have showed up, you'd already been out of the woods.
Yep. Oh, I'm sure that happens to us all the time. I mean, our magical hour, it seems, is like 11 to noon, and I've had to leave.
Oh, yeah.
One time I remember probably one of my better hunts where I didn't kill a bird. There was 4 different birds gobbling, and they were all coming in from different directions, and it was like 11:50, and sure enough, noon hit, we had to leave the woods on 4 gobbling birds. It was heartbreaking, man. We did end up going back the next week and killing one, though, so I feel like we got a little bit of revenge.
Yeah. There's no doubt that law saves a lot of birds, which if the numbers are down, it's not a bad thing, but dang, that's frustrating. They should bump it back to 2:00.
Yeah.
Usually that 2 to 4 is usually not a whole lot going on. It's because there's still a lot of birds, like lonely midday birds, that go from 12 to 1, sometimes up to 2:00. That's frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, even like West Virginia near us is 1:00. I would take 1:00 even. Yeah. That would be even a little better. Any little more time we could get would be nice. And in the second half of the season, you can hunt all day. They do open it up for the last 2 weeks. You can hunt sun up to sundown, so that helps a little bit. But I did have another question for you, though. I guess sticking with the scouting perspective, because I know you spent some time and you've hunted with the hunting public guys. And it seems like when they do some of their out-of-state hunts, a lot of times you'll see maybe the first day and a half, they'll do a lot of scouting. Like they're going to really scour an area. And they've even like marked birds where they'll leave them, hit another spot, and then you'll see they'll come back on that same trip and hunt that bird.
I'll do that even if I don't have time to spend a day scouting, which I would like to ideally. When I make a trip, I would ideally like to spend a whole day scouting, but a lot of times I'm working with limited amount of days. So as I hunt, if I hear a bird, I'm remembering where he's at, even if nothing ever comes of it. He's probably not going to go far. And if the hunting's really tough, I may come back to him and see if he's fired up.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, so I kind of got a scenario then, because it's related, I guess, to your Minnesota hunt that I recently watched. Around here, we see a lot of, like we mentioned before the call, like there's a lot of wooded areas where the woods are public. I guess it's a little different in your situation, but the woods will be public and then the fields will be private. I mean, that happens here like a lot.
Yeah.
An absolute lot.
We have that a lot here in Tennessee as well.
Okay. So you can relate.
I've passed up birds that were just across the fence in a private field. I've had birds hang up in those private fields, and then I've got lucky a few times and called them across. But that's pretty big around here as well.
Yeah. I guess the question would be then, do you have any tactics or experiences you can share on how you got them out of the field? Because sometimes them field birds can be pretty stubborn.
Drop back a little ways. Don't be right up on the edge of the field.
Okay.
And sometimes they're going to be stubborn no matter what, especially late in the season if they've been hunted a lot and a lot of the dumber, easier birds have been killed. Some of the more wary birds, they learn where they're safe. So either that or they've just got everything they want and don't have a reason to come into the woods, even if it's not from pressure.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about catching them in the right mood, and sometimes they're just like never seem to be in the right mood. But you get a bird that's in the right mood, step back to where he's got to come across the property line to even see where you're at. Not so far back that he's not going to be interested in your calling. Like, you want him to be able to hear you. But get back there, like if you're on a ridge where it kind of dips back a little bit, get back to where you can't even see the field. Like, he's out there, but you don't want to even see where he is, and see if you can call him, get his curiosity peaked. And if there's a woven wire fence on the property line, he's not. Just start walking the fence and try to find a gap in it, because like 99 times out of 100, a gobbler gets hung up on a woven wire fence.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. We've mentioned that before. I mean, they're so stupid sometimes that
they're dumb.
The same fence that they might have crossed 100 times in the winter, come springtime, they just don't know how to cross it all of a sudden.
It's those woven wire fences. They're capable of jumping and flying over it, but they won't. They don't understand that they can do that. If it's like a 4-panel wooden fence like you see on those nice horse farms,
yeah,
I've seen them fly up and land on it, just sit there and preen. But the woven wire, they just get all messed up about it. Barbed wire, like stranded barbed wire, they'll go between the strands. They'll duck under and go through. But those square woven wire fences, they just don't know what to make of them, and they don't realize that they can just fly over it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Just pace back and forth until they get bored and leave.
Yeah. So without a fence, say you got one, it's just really stubborn, really hanging up. Do you like to kind of wait them out, maybe give them the silent treatment? Or if you've waited long enough, do you move on, mark the bird, and try to come back another day and catch them in the right mood?
I'll give him some time at least, I'll go quiet for a while, and if nothing happens after a while, I may fire up, try to get him fired up. But, I'm not going to spend more than 1 day on a bird like that. I'm going to go somewhere else. If he's that stubborn, and say he's out in a cow pasture, something about cow pastures, they're real particular too. They've got everything they need right there.
Yep.
They got, a lot of times the farmers feed the cows too. But they got everything they could want in a cow pasture. And if I'm spending 2-3 hours with a bird and he's not showing the slightest bit of interest, what really gets me is when you see a gobbler, or sometimes more than one, that don't have any hands, and they're just pecking around the field. They've got to be in the mood at some point, but it's like even if they do fire up, sometimes in some circumstances they just won't commit. They stay out in the field.
Seen that a million times. It seems like when you get, even sometimes there'll be 2 of them, 2 gobblers out there all by themselves, middle of the field, feeding across. You're thinking, this is going to be the moment. You go out, run in, set up on them, start calling. They don't even look your way sometimes. I mean, they just keep going.
Sometimes they'll gobble at you, and sometimes they won't even look. You might get a courtesy gobble. But they got to be like you said, is it worth going back? If that's the only birds you've got to hunt, then yeah, it's worth going back, because they might change their mood at some point.
Sure.
But if I know other places that I could probably get on a bird, I'm not going to waste time with a bird like that.
Okay. Makes sense. Got anything, Austin? On, I want to switch over to maybe terrain.
Yeah, I like terrain.
Okay. So a lot of videos that I've seen of yours, I would like to put a percentage to it. It's high. A lot of the birds you kill, a lot of the places you hunt, obviously with the hills, a lot of times you're just seeing like a head of the bird and you're blasting it, right? So how are you using the terrain to your advantage in a lot of these scenarios?
Just like that, to where I see his head, he can see me. I want him to get close enough to where I can usually hear him coming, walking in the leaves, but even if not, I want to set up just over the rise or just around the corner from something. Even if it's a thicket, even if it's like thicker undergrowth in one spot to put between me and the bird, I want him coming in close before he can even get his eyeballs on wherever I'm sitting. Not that he's going to necessarily see me. If I'm well hidden, he might not see me, but he's not going to see a hen. And a lot of times they get nervous and kind of tuck their wings and go the other way. So I'm setting up something between me and the bird. And a lot of times in hill country, it's the rise of a ridge top.
Yeah. Do you also pay attention and pick those areas to call from because they're natural spots where hens will naturally call from? Is that why you're using those areas as well? Do you think that's effective?
No, I mean, if I'm setting up like that, I've already got a bird gobbling. So
okay.
It doesn't matter where a hen's calling from because he's already interested in me. Like say last year I was on top of a ridge and struck a bird way across the hollow on another ridge on another property. So I couldn't move closer to him. So my only option was to drop back off the ridge where he couldn't see until he was on top of the ridge in shotgun range. And so that's the only reason I set up there is because he was already answering me, and I needed to put something between me and him where he would come into shotgun range, and he did. He was 20 yards tops when I shot him. There is one risk, I would say, if you're not allowed to shoot jakes in your state, or if you don't want to shoot a jake, it can be risky shooting a head. I mean, obviously, if he's gobbling and a big red and white head pops up, it's not a hen, but you still want to be careful if you don't want to shoot a jake or if you can't. I actually shot a jake last year because he had a big, deep gobble like a longbeard, and it was just two jakes. They just had a little bit better gobble to them, which, I mean, I'm not sorry for it, but that's something you need to keep in mind if you're picky about what you shoot.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question because I heard you actually tell that story today. I was listening to the episode with Chasing Tails, Walter Lee, and you told that story about shooting that jake. You thought maybe that it was the gobbler when you saw the other jake fly off, and we're fortunate enough we're in a state where our regulations in the spring are a bearded bird. So we can shoot jakes and, we can shoot a bearded hen if that really fits your fancy, either way. But yeah.
Yeah, I want to know because I guess your opinions maybe changed on that over the years as well. I mean, where you stand on shooting jakes?
I mean, it depends on, I think, I'm not against it, but if the population was hurting or if there's too many people hunting, I would not be against it being illegal either. But if it would save a few birds on some of the areas that don't have many birds or get hunted way too much, I wouldn't be against them outlawing jakes, but I'm kind of neutral on it, really. I don't really have a really well-defined opinion on it. I think, if you've killed a bunch of turkeys and you're just going and shooting first thing you see, then, I mean, it's not that impressive, but still, it's your tag to burn. They still taste good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm about.
Yeah, exactly. But, me personally, like, I don't expect other people to follow my personal standards. I would rather not shoot a jake myself, but I will on occasion. Like last year was an accident, but I took that risk knowing, I can't see his beard when I shoot. So every now and again I may shoot a jake, but I generally try not to. Like I've called in jakes, have jakes every year. Last year I had some in close. Just having a jake, he can be standing there at 10 yards just staring at me and I'm not even going to pick up the gun.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, I feel like everybody who turkey hunts, they want to kill a longbeard every time. That's kind of the goal. But, there's sometimes you have those seasons where they're just winning every time. And, I'm just too much of a fan of nuggets, man.
Was it 2017 maybe? A few years ago, I had one of those seasons. We got a 6-week-long season, and it was dead middle, like after the third week, start of the fourth week. Dead middle of the season, I still hadn't killed one. It's one thing or another. I was getting on some birds, but they weren't being very talkative most days, and I was getting frustrated. So me and a buddy were riding to check out the spot he had permission to hunt, which is since sold, so we can't hunt it anymore, but it's just a field next to the road pretty much. And we pulled in off of this back road and came in next to the barn or whatever, and we peeked out there and there was a bunch of jakes. So we I was like, I don't want to shoot Jake, but I've been having a pretty tough season, so if we can get him to come in, then I'm gonna shoot one. So I ended up shooting one. It was the biggest Jake I ever shot, but it was like you said, out of frustration where the season is just not going well.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man. And I kind of see your point too. I mean, I don't kind of see your point. I do see your point too. If your area is hurting for birds, and probably not the best idea to shoot a bunch of jakes. But if you're in an area where there's multiple tags, your biologists are setting those tag limits for a reason. It's your tag to burn. If you want to shoot a jake, I'm all for it, man.
Yeah. I don't have anything against it. I wouldn't. I mean, in some instances, I wouldn't be against outlawing jakes, but that doesn't mean I'm against people shooting them. It's just one of the things. You can't paint turkey management with the same brush. It's different, like from one place to the next. And everyone's got, and hunters too. You can't say all hunters should have the same goals. Everyone's got a little bit different goals when they go in the woods.
Yeah, and that kind of goes on year to year too, depending on the hatch from year to year. They might have a bad hatch one year. Lower those limits, man. Yeah. If they have a great hatch, I don't have a problem raising the limits too.
I wish they would jump on limits that quick around here. If there was a pretty bad hatch like that everybody knew about, I wish they would cut it back for a year or two. But they actually just went this year from 4 to 3 birds in Tennessee because there are some areas that have seen decline. In some areas, a lot of areas are doing fine, but they've seen enough decline and people were talking about it enough that they've cut from 4 back to 3, which I guess is a step in the right direction. I don't think it'll do a whole lot for the big picture, but they're doing something about it. So I guess that's a plus.
Pennsylvania,
they're doing a little bit here too. They're mostly, they haven't really done anything with spring gobbler. Our state is 1 bird, and then you can get a bonus tag before the season. You have to purchase it prior to the first day of the season, or else you don't get the bonus tag. But they've been making regulations, and Pennsylvania, they have meetings annually where they can set the seasons, they can set limits, they can change a lot of stuff.
They do that here too, annually. Okay. They'll have the annual meeting. They're just a little bit slow to respond to turkey data and bag limits. They're a little bit slow to do anything on that. But yeah, we have the same thing, the annual meetings.
The one thing they've been really cutting back here on is our fall turkey season. They've actually taken away the 3-day shotgun season, and that's right around Thanksgiving in our specific area. They've actually taken away a few different WMAs that are local to us. So, and that, I guess because in the fall you can shoot either sex as well.
Yeah, they've done something similar here. When I started hunting, fall season's still the same. It's the last 2 weeks in October. So it's a 2-week shotgun season, and you can kill with a bow during deer archery season as well. But the fall shotgun season's last 2 weeks in October, as long as I've been hunting. And bag limits go by county. And so some counties have always been closed as long as I know, but the counties with good bird numbers used to have a limit of 1, 2, or 3, or up to 6. I think it was like 1, 3, and 6, or 1, 2, 3, 6, depending on the county. So, like, some of the areas I hunted that had a lot of birds, the fall limit was 6 birds either sex. So you could kill 6 hens, 6 jakes, Jake bolts, 6 toms, whatever.
Oh man!
And then you could go to the next county and kill 6 more if you wanted to.
Jeez.
So the thing is that they got away with that for a while because not a lot of people fall turkey hunt here. So if there was a hurting being put on the population, it was something locally where 1 or 2 guys maybe went a little too hard on the birds. But across the board, it's just never been popular to fall turkey hunt. So when they started seeing the decline the past few years and seeing more people talk about it, they went from up to 6 birds back to only 1 bird per county in the counties that are open. So there's 1 bird either sex. And then what was this now? I want to say a couple years ago maybe, they changed it to 1 bearded bird per county that's open during the fall season. So I could still kill multiple birds in the fall, but it's one per county. He's got to have a beard now.
Okay. Yeah, they've definitely made some moves. I think they've even taken away the regulation that, you could hunt in the fall months with a rifle. And I think they've pulled back on that as well in some areas, if not all. I'm trying to think if they maybe were trying to do that for this year where they were eliminating rifle hunting for turkey altogether, which I thought was insane that anybody even tried to do that. But it's funny.
We don't have that down here.
Yeah,
too many people get shot around here.
Could you imagine? Right. I mean, I never knew like fall turkey in Pennsylvania was a huge thing. I've recently found out from friends. Yeah, it's like a giant until they try to start taking that season away and limiting it. That's when all the voices were starting to be spoken on it. And I didn't grow up that way, so I was completely ignorant to it. But a good friend of mine runs an actual turkey dog in the fall. And he does really well with the dog, and it really enjoys it. And he was pretty upset about it as well.
Yeah.
So,
see, I think fall turkey hunting wasn't popular enough down here, which there's always a few people who do it, but I think it had minimal impact. If you looked at the harvest numbers compared to spring, it just really wasn't that much. Getting killed in the fall. But, I mean, when you do see a decline in a lot of areas, you want to do something to cut back on limits. Sure. So I get fall limits because you could kill hens in the past. I guess that was the first place to go, is cut back on killing the hens.
Yep.
But, I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I think if they want to make a difference on harvest, on not killing too many toms, they're going to have to cut it down below 3. But I miss killing my 4 birds, so I'm not, kind of a tough place where you want to kill multiple birds, but sometimes if the numbers get low enough, you might have to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I've seen enough places with good turkey numbers. I think they would almost have to manage it by units like they do for deer.
Yeah.
Sure. It makes sense too.
Yeah. I got to be honest, man. I don't even know what it's like killing 3 birds. That's let alone 4.
Yeah, we're going to have a long season if it's going tough. I'll say that.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to get into your season last year because you laid down 6 birds, which is pretty impressive, in 3 different states. There's just one more topic I want to get some of this tactic stuff out of the way. Decoys. That's always a big hot topic, especially decoys in hill country. Do you use them? Do you not use them? That's kind of probably the biggest part of the first part of the question.
I've never owned one, really.
Okay. I've never.
I'm not against them. I will say this. Now, talk about controversial hot topic. I'm not saying I'm for this, but I say if you've got bird populations that's struggling, and you want to cut back on the harvest without cutting back on the bag limit, get rid of decoys and fanning, which some states already don't allow fanning, but get rid of decoys. We can still use a fan down here. Alabama outlawed it. It's a safety thing, I think, but a lot of birds would live to see another day or see another season if there were no decoys hitting the woods. So I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm saying if you want to cut back on the harvest without cutting back on the limits, then everyone could still kill the same limit, but less birds would be killed because a lot of people rely on decoys. So I've never used them because it just doesn't do it for me. I've used the fan a couple times just to try it out, and I've hunted with people who use decoys, and I don't really have anything against it. It's just it doesn't really do it for me most of the time.
Yeah. We are not allowed to actually stalk the bird. Actually, we're not allowed to stalk the bird at all in Pennsylvania.
I remember reading that. I looked into Pennsylvania regulations several years ago, and I thought that was the weirdest thing. You couldn't even sneak up on one. You had
weirdest thing in the world. I've known guys that have literally been written up just for they had a bird gobbling and they crossed just like a little roadway to the other side of the woods just to get a better setup. And they've been written up by the Game Commission just for doing that. Now that point though, I believe
I'd be fighting that one in court. That's setting up on a bird to call him in is not stalking.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'd be fighting that one. I'd have a lawyer on that one.
That's
a weird law. That I've seen some interesting regulations up that way, just from what I've looked into.
I want to say there was more to that story. I actually believe it had something to do with the fall. We used to have fall orange regulations. where you had to wear orange whenever you were moving. And I think it had something to do with it. He wasn't wearing his orange hat, even though he only moved about 10 feet. But I'm not, that was a really long time ago. But
it's always something like that where they've got something else on the guy and they're using that BS ticket as an excuse just to get him because they know he's up to something else.
I've
heard of stuff like that.
I'm sure of it. But yeah, we do use decoys. I know Austin and I both have used them, but I think there's also a time and place for them. That's why I was kind of going into that. I've never seen you use them. I've never seen them on your videos. That's why I was wondering. But yeah, I'm not against or for them either. I like to chase them without decoys. I like to chase, especially in hill country, because there's a lot of times you can use the terrain to your advantage where you don't really need a decoy as well.
Yeah, and honestly, what the decoy does more than anything is keeps them from looking at you and spooking, gives them something as a distraction. You can still call him into range with or without a decoy, but if he's got a decoy to focus on, you can get your gun up and shoot him a lot easier than if he's looking straight at you in the eye because he doesn't see a hand or anything.
Yeah.
But I like it with just me versus the gobbler is the way I've always liked it. Where I'm calling him to me and shooting him before he busts me. That's always what's got me so fired up about
it. Yeah. I feel like it's highly situational around here. I know moving forward, when I hunt on public land, I'm definitely not taking decoys with me. This past season, I had a setup and I actually had someone come in on me and I almost got shot. It was actually pretty scary. But yeah, moving forward, I'm definitely not taking decoys with me on public land around here, that's for sure.
Yeah, you'll see people do crazy stuff like that sometimes on public. Yeah, I mean, it's just a personal preference thing for me. I just don't really care to, not just because of the way I hunt, but I don't want to carry a decoy with me. I've never even worn a vest in the woods. I try to pack light. I carry my shotgun over my shoulder and my camera and tripod in one hand and I got cargo pockets and stuff for my calls and snacks and stuff.
Yeah.
I just try to keep it light. I don't want to carry a decoy around. I don't really want to fool with it. It's not how I've really hunted.
Lean and me, man. I like it. So we've gone through a little bit of the tactical stuff. And that's kind of Chuck's side of the realm, but I'm kind of more for the stories, man. I want to hear about your last season. Chuck mentioned it before. It was a great season. Let's kind of get into it. We don't have to go the whole nitty gritty, but I kind of want to go from start to finish a little bit.
So we had the lockdown and everything last year, right around the start of turkey season, and everyone's out of work. I expected it to be like miserable with the amount of people, which to an extent it was. So I didn't have high hopes. I was just going to try my best to get on some birds before other people did and hopefully find something to myself. So I got there opening morning. I actually, working the previous week or two, I had a couple buddies who were scouting some public and saw people scouting out all week long because they were off work. And I was like, man, this doesn't look good. There's going to be too many people and not enough land. So opening day comes, day before opening day, I go to one of my good spots and I get up on this ridge and roosted a whole flock with some gobblers, jakes, hens, everything. And nobody was out there roosting, which I was kind of surprised, but I knew somebody would be there in the morning. So I get out there at like 3:15 in the morning and I passed a truck right down the road from my spot. It was already parked there. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be pretty bad. I hope nobody walks in on me. So long story short, I didn't get close enough to the roost, didn't get a shot right off the bat. Later on in the morning, because birds were down in the bottom by now, 4 guys came in on me, but I was halfway down the point. So I just dropped in the bottom and got between them and the turkeys and killed one.
Nice.
But they parked right on me. Like one guy right in front of my truck and one guy right across the street. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go to another spot. And I took the boat and hit a spot I hadn't been to in a while. It's been a few years since I've been there. And opening day evening, this is the same day, opening day evening I got out there. Roosted 2 hens that got into a fight, never heard a gobble. Next morning, second day season, didn't hear a thing on the roost. Nothing at all. Same spot. I thought maybe might be a gobbler with those hens. Didn't even hear them. So I start prospecting and Ended up striking that bird we talked about earlier, where I had to drop off the ridge because of the property line, and had to have him come over top of the ridge, and just shot him as soon as I saw his head. And then, what was it, the day after that, maybe? Yeah, it was the day after that is when I killed that Jake on another ridge. And that was like before sunrise. Legal shooting hours start here half an hour before sunrise and end at sunset.
Yep.
So sun hadn't even come up yet. He came off the roost, or those two Jakes came off the roost and hopped right up 10 yards from me, 5 yards maybe. So I already killed 3 out of my 4 birds. There's 2 out of my 3 birds. No, I'm losing track here. I'm thinking of Alabama. 3 out of my 4 birds. I already killed 4 birds because I had one in Alabama. I skipped past Alabama. And so I already killed 3 out of my 4 Tennessee birds. And then, a week and a half goes by. I hunted a couple other spots. I went to one spot that's just always overrun with people. It was nuts. And half the people were fishing because it was by some water, by a creek or something. And just the amount of people out there was insane. So I left, and then I ended up taking the boat back out to another spot, start prospecting. April 14th, I tagged out, and it was a pretty slow morning, but I ended up getting on this one satellite bird that was quiet for like almost an hour, and on my way back to the boat, I struck him up, and he was right down the ridge I'd been sitting on the whole time. So he went from completely quiet, nothing happening, to all of a sudden he's in the mood, and he was dead in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Those kind of setups are just magic sometimes.
Yeah, and half of those birds I killed, I was picking mushrooms along the way. So I had morels and turkeys I was pulling out of the woods. It was a really good season. It was a lot better than I thought it would be with all the amount of people off work and everything. I couldn't believe how well it went. So
yeah,
I'm hoping for a half as good of a season this year.
Hey, I don't blame you, man. I mean, that's kind of hard to beat right there. But, kind of off topic. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but, let's talk about mushroom hunting a little bit. I mean, I love morels. We do kind of a little bit different mushroom hunting in the fall here for sheep's head and stuff. But, we have some pretty good morel spots if you know what you're looking for. I don't want any of your secret spots or anything like that. But do you have kind of a common theme where you find morels in the spring? I know around here we kind of look for old dead elms.
The only common theme I've seen is some of the bigger patches, and not bigger mushrooms, but bigger numbers of mushrooms I've seen were in groves of tulip poplar. And I don't know if that's coincidence or if it's because the leaf litter is more matted down and you can see them better. I've always heard, dead elms, or we got emerald ash borer now. All the ash trees are dying.
Yep. Same here.
Someone told me that was a really good place to find mushrooms. So last year I checked a bunch of dying ash trees and didn't find one. But then sometimes I do find them in those textbook spots. One of my best patches of big mushrooms, like biggest I've ever picked, is in a Chinese privet hedgerow on the edge of a field. And the only reason I found it is I saw turkeys in the field. And I ducked back into the bushes so they wouldn't see me, and I stumbled into all these giant morels.
Oh, man.
You just never know. And I found them in cedar glades, under cedar trees. I found them in weird places.
Wow.
And then I've been in places that looked prime, like where I would normally find them, and never found anything. There's no rhyme or reason, at least around here. I think in the Midwest, they say, dead elm trees.
Yeah.
But maybe they're different in different regions of the country, but around here, there's really no rhyme or reason.
I feel like that's kind of one of those things that it can be kind of gimmicky when you hear like the hot tips for finding morels. They're always around the dead elms and stuff like that. Most guys, when they have a good mushroom spot, they keep it as secret as their best whitetail spot. They're not trying to let anybody find those spots. And, sometimes you hear, like you heard earlier, that the ash trees, the dead ash trees, and you went and checked it out and there was nothing. It can be kind of gimmicky, and you feel like sometimes guys tell you tips that just kind of throw you off.
It's almost like shed hunting, right?
Yeah.
Like same thing.
I think sometimes people do find them in those spots and they've had good luck, but so they think it's always going to be a hot spot. But then I go look at another, patch of elm or ash trees and I don't find anything. So it's like, it's nothing set in stone. And, you just gotta, the only thing set in stone is you got to spend some amount of time looking for them, and you may luck into them quick, or you may be looking for a long time before you find them. But once you start getting an eye for them, they're real hard to spot. Is the other thing. There's no telling how many I've walked past I never knew were there.
Yeah, I've yet to find my first morel. I've still never found one. My own father won't even tell me where his morel mushroom spot is.
Wow. He's hardcore right there.
Yeah, he has one spot up our camp he goes to every year that he just crushes them. He usually goes like middle of the week when we're all working. He'll go up there and say he's cutting the grass or whatever, but really he's just going up and finding a bunch of mushrooms. But I do get to eat them, so I can't complain, right?
That's a good point. As long as you get to eat them.
But wasn't it apple trees too? Did I hear under like apple trees was another place, or does that?
I've heard that. I think I don't remember where, but I think I've heard that too.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot like shed hunting. Like, you know, you have people will tell you your set spots where that's where you look, right? And I think what it does is it's not a guarantee, but it might raise your odds if you know what you're looking for.
I would say something about the ash trees. I've never found a big patch specifically on ash trees, but I have found like 2, 3, maybe 5 or 6 yellow morels around the base of an ash tree in multiple different places. And, you know, you may look at 50 ash trees and not find that, but then you'll just find like a couple of good mushrooms at the base of an ash tree. I'm not sure why that is.
Huh.
Yeah. Leatherwood Outdoors, I believe he was the one that said, you know, he finds it best when the bark is starting to peel away from the trees. You know, when that bark's falling off the trees. So.
We've got that here with the ash borers, and I'll be looking again this year. My opinion may change as I look at more dying trees, because more of them die every year now.
Yeah, we're out of them, man. They've killed all of them up here, pretty much. You can't find.
It sucks. We've got so many ash trees that you won't be able to not see it if you're looking at the landscape during the summer. There'll be so many dead tree tops because we got so many ash trees. But there's still a lot living. I'd say there's still a lot more living than not living around here. But even on this place I live on now, you look up on top of the ridge during the summer. I noticed last summer there's a bunch of dead tree tops, and I walked up there back during deer season, and I realized there's a whole bunch of ash trees up in there, and like there's still like at least half of them are halfway alive, but they're dying out pretty quick, and it just spreads more every year.
Yep. That's how they tell you, you don't have to travel with firewood and all that good stuff, but I mean, they hit us hard years and years back, and you drive around the neighborhood now, and then pretty much 90% of the dead trees you see are ash trees, and they're just giant, big. Yeah, make good firewood, but
really good. I was gonna say I'm trying to find a way to get up in that hill. It's in a nasty cedar thicket. I'm trying to find a way to get up in that hill and get wood back out of the woods without too much of a hassle, because there's going to be a bunch of good firewood up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll just burn it locally. I'm not going to carry it with me anywhere.
Right, exactly. Same here. You know, keep it at the house and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. Now, we are getting closer on time, but one thing that we love to do with all of our guests, now, it's typically your favorite hunting story. You know, we've heard a couple of your turkey hunting stories, but, you know, the turkey vibe's good, but I want to hear your favorite hunting story of all time, whether it be a turkey story, a deer story, maybe your first hunt ever. We like to spring this on guys. We think it's a little bit more genuine when we don't let you think about it ahead of time.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't think I could pick one favorite. There's a few popping into my head now. Well, I'd say I can't pick a favorite. I'll go most memorable, which was my first deer and first turkey.
I like it.
And I was telling turkey stories, so I'll just talk about my first deer. It was opening day gun season in 2012. A buddy of mine had lent me his 30-30 and kind of given me a little intel on the spot that he said was good on this public that I had been scouting and hunting. And I'd hunted it a couple times the year before, and then I'd killed my first turkey there that year, 2011. So I had a little experience on the property, but this guy gave me a little intel. And so I walked in there. I want to say it was, during muzzleloader season. I didn't have a muzzleloader, so I just walked in there with my orange just to scout. And I saw some deer across the property line in another field. where he had told me it was like a pinch point between two private fields, and I was in the woods with some hardwoods, and then there's cedar thicket on both sides. So it was a good pinch point. And so I picked out this big maple tree right on the corner of the property overlooking this creek in this pinch point. And so I came up there before daylight, opening day, gun season, and sat down at the base of that maple tree. And it got to, I don't remember, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was kind of dozing off, and I heard something behind me and looked around my shoulder. And this little 5-point picks up his head 5 yards behind me and looks at me. And I was like, oh, I'm busted. So I turn and go to get my gun. He puts his head right back down. He's on the trail of a doe that had come through sometime earlier. And, it was during the rut. So he just he looked at me, put his head straight back to the ground, started sniffing down this trail, and came around to my left. And I picked up a gun. It had the Weaver see-through scope mounts where you can use the iron sights. Yep. And he was at 8 yards. I looked under the scope, used the iron sights, and hard shot him. And I was saying most memorable hunt. I can still see the bullet hole in that deer after I shot him, because when I shot him, he took off like a rocket, but I got a glimpse of a bullet hole. And I can still see that moment in my head, because it was like my first deer ever. I had never, it was my first time, well, not my first time deer hunting, but my first time that season, like my third time ever deer hunting.
Wow.
And then I struggled the rest of the season, didn't kill anything else, but that was something I won't ever forget.
No, that was a great story, man. That's one of the things, you always think about your first time, but that's a pretty memorable one there, right there, man. I love that.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I find it pretty amazing, too, coming from a whole family, nobody hunts. You kind of just picked it up on your own, and where you've come from since then, and what you're producing now, and doing it all with camera just makes it that much more amazing, man, because I know how difficult that is, and it's really tough, and I think what you're doing is great. Your YouTube channel is awesome. I love it. Well, we love it. Just keep pumping out content, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully everybody here that's listening to this will head over there and check your stuff out.
I appreciate it. I'll keep doing my best and put out whatever videos I can come up with.
Absolutely, right, man. Here's your chance. Tell them where they can find everything, all your content, your YouTube, your Instagram, Facebook, whatever you got, man.
So, YouTube channel's Catman Outdoors. So is Facebook. Instagram is at Catman529. There's a 529 Outdoors. I don't even remember. I think it's at Catman529.
Catman529.
Yeah, you'll find it if you type that in. I got a TikTok recently, so I'm on there as well.
Oh, I'm gonna friend you right now.
Okay, cool. Then I got my website, catmanoutdoors.com. That's where I sell stuff like my hats and T-shirts and decals and stuff. And then I've also got I don't have a whole lot going on the website. I've got a little blog where I make a post with an update every now and again. But the main project I worked on my site last year was my oak tree identification guide. So if you're into figuring out all the different oaks and what kind of acorns deer like, then that may be of use. So that's also a work in progress. I'll be adding on to it this coming year. But that's pretty much everywhere you can find me.
Beautiful, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and telling stories and sharing tactics and everything like that, man. We really appreciate you taking time.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yep. Thanks, Cat, man. Appreciate it, man.
Have a good one.